The pickneydom asleep. The house finally settled down. And the tea poured. Welcome to Tea After Bedtime. Welcome to episode 2. I got my tea. I got my notes. This is technically not tea. This is technically, yes, my notes. So let's do this. So, like the name of the episode says, that's exactly what we're going to be talking about. Each episode, whatever the title of it is basically an insight to what we'll be talking about. But before we even begin, I would like to say this, and let me be very, very clear. I love my husband. I chose this life, and I am not in distress. Do I need to repeat it for like the people in the back? Because, sometimes when you talk about a topic, people think that, the shoe fits. But also on the other side of it, there's a running joke with my mom's boyfriend is if you're in distress, blink twice. If you need to run, blink twice. I'm not blinking, guys. I'm okay. Don't worry. I promise you. Whatever I talk about, whatever tangent I may go off on, I'm perfectly fine. I love my husband. I chose this life and I'm not in distress. Everybody goes through these things and that's what we're going to talk about. Okay, so now that we have that covered, let's talk a little bit about marriage side of it before we talk about like yourself and finding yourself and still being yourself in marriage. So y'all know how it is go, right? When you reach a certain age, all them aunties come out to the woodworks. When you're getting married, you not find nobody. And then once you get married, oh, when y'all go get a picnic. Oh, y'all need a picnic. We need a little grand picnic for run around. And then once you get the child, when you going for a second one, you need a brother or sister to play with, right? God forbid, right? You get 2 boys or you get 2 girls. Here comes what the third one is. You're not gonna try for the third one. You never know. It might be a boy or it might be a girl, and then you're done. You're not gonna worry no more. Like I was ever worried. But that's like a cultural thing, right? Like that's how it's always been. I mean, for me growing up in Guyana, that's how it's always been. I've always heard that. I've always heard the, you know, go to school, get married, have a child, settle down, live your life, have grand picnics, and start the process all over again. My questions in here says, what was one moment recently where I thought, oh, so we're married? Andy and I are not newlyweds. We're also not like newly dating. So we're not in that honeymoon phase anymore where you can be like, oh, we're married. But I do recall like one period of time where we had just gotten married and we were doing something or we were being introduced to someone or I can't remember what exactly it was. And I look over to the person and I say, this is my husband, Andy. And I paused for a second and both him and I looked at each other like, husband? Whoa. Like that was weird. Like using the word for me is like to this day when I introduce, I'm like, oh, this is my husband, Andy. And I'm like, that's my man friend. That is not my husband. That is my man friend. But I think that would be my only like moment where I would say that we would we're married situation. Like in the beginning years. But now our little tidbit is rings. Oh my God. Rings. Anytime we go out or we're going out or we're leaving the house or we're doing something, it's always are you married? He will look at me or I will look at him and be like, are you married today? And it's mostly ring purposes. So it means that if I am married today, I'm having my ring on. If I'm not married today, I don't have my ring on. And it's just a running joke with us where that's like, we'll go out, and if we don't have our rings on and people look around, or if he has his ring on and I don't, I'd be like, well, I'm just your dirty mistress tonight that is just so in love and so smitten over the fact that you're such an amazing single father. And that's just what it is. Or if I have my ring on and be like, well, I'm your sugar mama tonight, so we're just gonna have to work with it. It's just a running tibbet with us. It's never like anything serious or anything like that. So for tonight's purposes and tonight's broadcast, like episode, I'm not married. He'll be fine. So for me, every marriage is different. It doesn't matter. Okay, let me rephrase this. Not marriage, relationship, not just a marriage, relationships. Because, and please entertain me here for a second. And this is where the part where I say you will get to know like my personality, and you'll get to know like my way of thinking and the kind of person that I am. Um, those who do know me, like you guys know me and you know my take, and especially my close friends and family know my take on it. I don't believe in marriage. I don't believe in marriage. I understand that it has to happen for religious purposes and sometimes for other reasons, but I don't believe that a piece of paper dictates your marriage. Um, and so as I sit here, all I can be thinking about right now is my aunt's looking at this, and all my religious people are looking at this and everything, and they're like, huh? But bear with me here. Um, Even with that religion and even with that piece of paper, they can still leave you. They can still cheat on you. They can still have a whole other family. They can still do whatever the hell they want. Like that piece of paper and religion doesn't stop them from doing that. So, like I said, each relationship, not just marriage, is different, and how you commit to that person and the rules and the sanctity that you have within that relationship is what matters, period. Okay, my tangent's over. Let's go back to the script. So why I did go off on that tangent was because every relationship and marriage has to have its own set of rules depending on that couple. And these are things you talk about before you dive deep into that relationship, before you move in with each other, before you commit to each other, before you have children with each other. And so Annie and I have always had the same kind of like conversations. I would like to say, he knew what he was getting into. Okay. It wasn't like it was a surprise. I am not easy to deal with. I'm not easy to deal with. I always say that. I said, if I ever have to, God forbid, knock on wood, if I ever have to go back out into the dating world, there is no man that would ever be able to tolerate my soul. Like one of the videos that I have on TikTok says with my brother, bless Andy's heart, bless his heart. But it goes back to the whole idea of the aunties telling you that this is what has to happen, and the whole idea of you're married, and once you're married you need to do this, and once you but you make your own rules. Like for example, I can walk out of this house half naked, and jokingly, and I mean it, I really mean it jokingly, once in a while my aunt and my mom will go, your husband let you walk out the house looking like that? And I say jokingly because they know, one, Andy can never ever tell me what to wear. And two, not even them can tell me what the hell to wear coming out the house. But like I said, jokingly, but those are also things that people, actual people, would say to people, not being a joke. Your husband let you come out the house looking like that? Girl, you bet he let me come out the house looking like that. He said strip down. I'm kidding. But it rolls it back into who you are as an individual in a relationship, and not losing yourself when you're in a relationship, because you are combining two different personalities into one to make it work seamlessly. So ensuring that your partner knows who you are, what you stand for, and what they're getting themselves into is definitely a huge, huge factor. One of my questions here is, in what ways did my life change after marriage, and in what ways did it not? You think I would have come prepared, right? I kind of did, but I also am like, I don't really think anything actually changed for me after marriage. I think things just developed a little bit more after children. Um, Life in general changed after children for me. It was um, more about my children than it was about my relationship. And so I think that in that aspect of it, I think that's where my life altering change happened. I wouldn't say anything of myself changed after marriage or even while in a relationship. Um, Only because Andy and I were together for so long, and then we were together so long, and then we got married. So it wasn't like we were together for about a year or two and we never lived with each other or anything like that. So we already knew what our quirks were. We already knew what we didn't like about each other. We knew what we did like. We knew what we could tolerate. So it wasn't like a major drastic change after we got married. So I have my little tidbit here about, what my views on what I think about marriage is. And for me, I combined my views about marriage between how I saw my mom and my aunts and their marriages into the things that I would want and the things that I really wouldn't want in my marriages and my relationships as well. And so, like, growing up for me, my grandmother and my grandfather's relationship was something that I looked at, and it's something that's still ingrained into my memory to this day. Like, I remember I would go over to my grandmother's house during the summer, and she would be preparing meals, and even my aunt, actually, to this day, I remember I'd be home there and dinner would be prepared for when he came home, and um, she would serve him his meal, and if she wasn't awake when he came home because of masjid or work or whatever, she would have had a plate ready for him in the fridge. But for my grandmother, it was always her serving him, and he would sit on the ground and he would eat with his fingers. It's a religious thing, and religious cultural thing. And he, if we were up, he would feed us. And it was something that's ingrained to my memory. And I'm like, oh, wow. And let's be honest, I don't take out Andy's food. So that's one part of that relationship I never took with me. I cook for him. I am the main cook in the household, but I don't take out his plate of food. And even when we go to like a wedding and it's like buffet style and we have to take out food, we would go together and he would hold the plates and I would point to what I want and the person would take it out. I don't think it was something I ever took with me unintentionally. But there'd be once in a while I take out his food. It's not something I'm against. It's just not my thing. In taking out a plate of food for him. He's a grown man. He can do it himself. But it, like I said, it was one thing it's ingrained in my memory of my grandmother doing that, and I think it's a very traditional way of life, and I'm not opposed to anyone that does it. I commend you by all means, but it's not something that I took with me and I carried on with me. And then on the other side of it is my mother and my aunt, who have all been divorced. My mom has had 3 marriages, divorced 3 times. My aunt has been divorced once. That's no secret. There's no shame in it. And that taboo behind the whole idea of, oh my God, they're divorced. What will happen to them? How they gonna survive? Who gonna marry them now? What they gonna do with themselves? Oh my God, they got dead. They got dead alone. Like they didn't give birth to kids that's gonna be stuck up their butt for the rest of their lives, right? But it's that taboo, that whole idea that your whole life ends after divorce. And for me, I think in sticking in a relationship that does not make you happy, that does not um, give you some type of peace in your life. I think that's the bigger taboo in it. You know what I mean? But then it comes back to the other side of it. As my mother is an inspiration, even after the first divorce, she found love and had a second one. And even after that one, she found someone that could love her for the third one. And even after that, she still found someone that loved her. And it's the whole idea of, why are you giving up just because of what society tells you or because you're a certain age or anything like that? Do what makes you happy. And it's that part of being yourself and finding yourself after different stages in life and during different stages in your life. So I think that part is inspirational to me, that the fact that my mother has always been able to pick up the pieces for herself and has found a way to move on with her life and be at peace with whatever part of her life she's had previously. So let's talk about being a wife and not losing yourself and still being a person and not feeling guilty about it. And understanding that as much as you are in a relationship or you're married, that your friendships still matter. Those, you still have to have something aside from that person that you have with you. There's always a huge guilt that I have when I go to brunch. So Andy moved his life down here to Virginia. Um, Andy moved his life here down to Virginia when I got pregnant and 2020 happened and COVID and everything happened. And so he doesn't have friends around here. Actually, I don't really have much either. I've got a couple girls. But we made friends, and some of my friends became his friends, and he hangs out with them. And he has, they have their own thing going on in their own chats. But I still always feel guilty when the girls come around. They're like, "Oh, let's go to brunch," or "Oh, let's go to dinner," because I get to have that downtime and I get to have that outing time with the girls. And he doesn't get to have that with his friends that he would have if we were in New York. So I do feel guilty when I go out with my girlfriends and I have brunch and or I go out for a drink or anything like that, because he doesn't have that opportunity to do that with his friends because we aren't in New York. And so it's the guilt part that I'm trying to emphasize here as women and as people in relationships when we want to go outside and enjoy time with our friends. And it's not just guilt with him, it's guilt about me leaving the girls. And listen, Andy doesn't tell me anything at all whatsoever. He is very supportive. Go, do what you got to do. Don't even worry about it. But there's still the guilt. I always still feel that guilt. So it's trying to like manage that guilt as well as like it's like trying to manage that guilt but also at the same time balance my friendships. Okay, so one of my questions is, what does individuality look like for me now? When you got little kids, there's nothing for you. Okay? Let's make that loud and let's make that clear. There is nothing individuality about you when you have little kids. One child, you still have a little wiggle room. Two kids, I'm going to drink this tea. Individuality is this for me, this podcast, what I'm doing here, because this is for me and only me. And it's not a one man show because, yes, he still does help me with this. I will put the kids to bed and I will, early in the day, I'll let him know, hey, I want to record tonight. I want to do an episode or so. And so while I'm putting the kids to bed, he's up here setting up my lights, setting up the cameras, setting up the mics. And so once the kids are bed and I'm doing makeup, I come in and he does a mic check. He does make sure all my cameras are lined up. I have one of my TVs there that he airdrops to so I can see what's happening. So individuality is this, and him allowing me to have this, I think, is one of the main reasons why I love him and he's one of my best friends, because it's like I said before, your relationship changes, and having someone that is able to adapt to those changes as your relationship goes is what makes this happen. So for me, this is what individuality looks like: being able to have your own thing in your own space and having that person support you. Does he have individuality? I like to think so. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I said, he's uprooted his whole life to come down here to be with me, but I do like to think that he gets to have his time and his space as well too, to be able to do what he wants. All right, so this one says my reality check. What's something marriage didn't fix? Marriage didn't fix me. And I will say this again. Marriage did not fix me. Marriage did not fix our problems. Okay, let me get you where I'm getting at, okay? When you have problems in a relationship, marriage doesn't fix those problems. So if you're gonna get married hoping it fixed this problem, it just makes it worse. Just like a baby doesn't fix the problems in a marriage, it only will heighten it and make it worse. So that's why when I say a marriage did not fix me, I mean it as in if I've had problems before my relationship, I will have carried them into my relationship. And within that relationship, if I don't know how to fix or see what my problem is within that relationship, then it continues into that relationship. A marriage won't fix that. So you have to look at yourself first in order to know what is really going on. You have to understand your personality. You have to understand the kind of person you are and what you are willing to tolerate and what you're willing to put up with and what you're willing to have in your life and what you're willing to settle for. Because at the end of the day, and I'm going to be very, very honest with you guys, we all settle for something. And that one there is the hard truth. In a relationship, you will always settle for something. And before I continue any of this, because I know I'm like deep into this episode right now, these are my opinions. Mine. I'm not telling you out here to go and have a conversation with your husband or your partner or your loved one and say, Zara, tell me, forgot tell you how you not treat me this way and have a marriage done. I didn't say that. I'm telling you from my experience, in my opinion, because, everybody still can have an opinion without coming to say, well, no, that's wrong, you're wrong. An opinion cannot be wrong. It's an opinion. What's something that something that marriage made better, or what's something that relationships made better for you? Um, let's see. I don't have to carry my own luggage anymore. I mean, I think that's the best part about it. I don't have to lug a suitcase through the airport or my bags. I don't have to lift suitcases off the belt. I don't have to push a luggage cart, but I do have to push a stroller. But soon they'll walk, so I don't have to worry about that. They're never gonna walk. Let's face the facts. They're never gonna walk. They're always gonna want me to lift them, push them, heist them, snuggle them, everything in between. I'm just kidding. um, no, but that is a fact though. One thing that marriage did make better, my relationships did make better, is I don't have to push luggage through an airport or take it off a carousel. And that is a big thing for me. Okay. But on a serious note, um, it comes along the same way, carrying half the weight of things. You know what I mean? I don't have to wake up every day with the girls. He's there, he can do it. I don't have to clean everything by myself. He does half of it, sometimes all of it. If you know my husband, most of the time he's doing all of it. I don't have to. That's the whole idea. It's a partnership, I would where he can lift the things that I drop, and I can lift the things that he drops. I think that's the best part of a relationship and marriage. I think any relationship should be like that, whether it's a roommate relationship or like a relationship. And so, as I wrap this up in my last part here, my little spiel of this episode, is one sentence that really got me, and it really resonates with me. You are allowed to redefine what a wife looks like to you. I'll say it again. You are allowed to redefine what a wife looks like to you, in a sense of You're not the same person you were when you first got into your relationship, just like you're not the same person you were when you first got married, and how many years you are together and everything like that. Just like you're not the same person when you were 16 or 20 or 23 or 25, or for me, 28 or 30. I'm 34 this year. I'm 34 this year. I stopped counting, okay? You're not the same person then. So why would you be the same wife? Why would you be the same person? You're allowed to change. You're allowed to grow. You're allowed to prosper. You're allowed to explore new things, just like you were when you were younger. Things change. And so, because you change in those different eras and those periods, your relationship and the way you interact and the way you are as a person in your relationship and in your marriage changes, your dynamics change. So you're allowed to change your perspective and your view as a wife. Have the conversations with your husbands. So, as we wrap this up, I know tonight's episode was a little deep. Might be a little funny, but a little deep. And like I said in my first episode, some of them will be deep, some of them will be funny, some of them will be humorous. But if tonight's episode was a little bit more like, okay, I get where she's coming from, I understand. Or if it was just a little like, I'm not the only one, okay, then I'm glad. I'm glad I was able to voice some of my opinions of where I stand on certain things and the kind of person I am, and hoping that, yes, maybe someone out there feels the same way. So, next week, join me back again. If tonight was anything for you and it hit some kind of loose screw in your head like it does with mine, join me next week. Same couch, same time. I'll pour the tea or the rum. We'll sip and unpack some more. Bye, guys.